Hear me.
Just give me that neat, sweet soul and nothing else. Just give me that beat, boom, baby, and move yourself.
This is Giants Amongst Us.
Now, here's a little story I got to tell.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time to share in that unique human experience. Welcome to the show. This is Giants Amongst Us, and to everybody listening and tuned in right now, thank you for being a part of this show and allowing these stories to coexist and intermingle with what you have going on right now at this very moment. And with that being said, I want to give a special shout out to a few places which I've seen recently that have came up on the feed showing that they've plugged in and tuned in to what's been going on over here and the stories that have been shared. And some of the more recent locales are places like Council Bluffs, Altoona, Ashburn, Pineville, Los Angeles. I'm seeing Eagle Mountain, New Albany, even out in Helsinki, Finland. We have Los Lunas, San Jose. So thank you to everybody that's been tuned in up until now. Let's keep this thing moving. Let's keep this thing grooving and continuing to embrace life in all of its shapes and forms and trying to make the most of this ride as best we know how. We've got a special one today. And the reason I say it's special is because the woman who is joining us today to share her story and to speak her piece is someone who I know personally. She's someone who, with her love and understanding and patience, has taught me a lot about myself, and she's helped me come out of a shell and to not be so cold and closed off to relationships. I've learned how to love again and how to be open for something new again. I'm thankful for her. I'm grateful for her. She's a big inspiration as to why I do this show. She's a big inspiration as to the reason behind this show. And this beautiful woman, this beautiful human being is my wife. We were sitting around the house and we thought, why not share a conversation and a dialogue about some of what you've been through? So she was all for it. You're going to hear some of her background, where she comes from, and how at an early age she was already sure of wanting to be a nurse. And that's what she did. For 23 years, she worked in the intensive care unit. She put all her blood, all her sweat, all her tears into that until her health was completely shot and it was suffering. It got pretty bad. She had 2 major surgeries recently, both of them being about a year apart. The first one was a spinal fusion for her back, and the next one, a spinal fusion for her neck. But she's got a lot of fight in her. So she's going to give us a glimpse of how it was for her working as a nurse in an intensive care unit and what changed, why she ended up hanging up her scrubs and switching jobs, changing paths. She's also going to talk about how it was dealing with the surgeries, the steps she took towards recovery, towards healing, and share some insight on what's helped her along the way. But rather than me tell it, I'll just go ahead and bring it in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Monique and her story. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We've got a special one today. And the reason it's special is because today joining us is the inspiration. I have 2 special women in my life. One is my mother, and the other one is Mo Mosey, my one and only, my wife. We were speaking earlier today, and we decided to hook this thing up and have a little talk. She wanted to join us and talk a little bit about some of her experiences in life. This woman has the fighting spirit, the spirit of a warrior, and she'll be the first one to talk it down like, oh, come on, that's enough. But like I said, She is the inspiration behind this show, and I'm happy to have her on so she can speak her piece and share her story with everybody out there. So, thank you very much for taking time out of your day, taking time out of your evening, and sitting down with us
At home with
to
you.
have a conversation.
Yeah.
How's everything going, my dear?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Why don't you, just for the sake of giving us some background on where you come from and how it was for you growing up?
Okay, so my name is Monique. For all those who don't know me, my husband is calling me Mimosi. And I am born and raised in the east side of Germany. I was born when the wall was still up. And yeah, that's where I grew up all of my childhood and youth. And later on, with 17, I moved out. I went to the west side. I went to Frankfurt because I got my apprenticeship over there as a nurse, and that's what I always wanted to do, and that's what I did. I was pretty young, but I made it.
Did you jump on the? I don't even know if you probably did tell me before, but did you from Gera to Frankfurt? Did you take the train, or did your parents drive you over there?
My first boyfriend back then, he drove me with my mother, and we had a few items I wanted to bring and make it a little homely for me, and that was it. And then they left me. It was a weekend, and now my laptop turned black. What is this? Do you still hear me? Yeah.
I can still hear you.
Yeah, so they dropped me off pretty much. We shared a day, and then I was crying, and I was so young. I thought, like, damn, they leave me here in a big city. It's like millions of people around me, all the different nations I never knew, because in the east side of Germany we didn't had a lot foreigners. So I went to the total opposite, which was Frankfurt, where like about 85 nations are meeting. and it was very colorful for me, but I loved it. I dove into different religions. I dove into all these different types of foods, and that was always something interesting, and made it a little easier later on for me to live alone so young. Yeah.
And you moved over there, and you got right into it with your studies. You're one of those people that I always say, my goodness, I never had, probably because I wasted a lot of time when I was younger and wasted years, but I never had a focus. I never had, I wasn't one of those people when I was younger and said, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I had these crazy dreams. Oh yeah, I'm going to be a baseball player. I'm going to play football or those kind of things. But you,
from early on though. I was yeah, I can put one out there. I knew very early that I wanted to be a nurse, and where this came from was,
how early?
Shoot, I was probably like, I started visiting my aunts, which were nurses, I do remember when I was 6, and those were my idols. My mother's sisters were nurses, and they worked in a home for mentally ill and disabled people. And those were some hardliners over there. So my mom was always scared when we visited her sister. And I was always, this is so interesting, Why do they run towards me and yell and cry? And my mom, she was hiding. She said, Monique, come. And I was always like, oh, man. And I looked up.
You weren't afraid of them?
I was never afraid of them, because I knew they'd just do so, or they stopped right in front of me. They all knew me. So my aunt, she always took me while she handed them out their medicine, while she gave them food. And then she said, Monique, do you want to do that? And I loved it. And I had my few people I always wanted to see, and I always visited over there. And I started very early to feed them, to talk with them. When I could read, I started reading them a book, and I knew, damn, this is my thing. I want to be like my auntie. That was always cool to me. She seemed always strong and so helpful, and she never was judgmental against these people, which were obviously different. And that's what I truly loved. And then, yeah, that was when that was growing in me, that I want to be a nurse. Those were my heroes.
For men or women that get into the medical field for the right reasons, they have to be a special human being, because it's not for everybody. And then you can probably talk a little bit about that later on in life, where it's a battlefield and you are going to war every single day. But from a very early age, you already had that desire to want to do that. And you were already making it a point. Also, you said you were going with your aunts. You
Yeah.
were going to visit the psych wards, but then you were also going like on your spare time, weren't you? And you would visit the omas and opas.
Yeah. There was an elderly home, right, where I was living. And after school, I was always a little different, though. I love to go out with my friends, and I love to play, but I always had on mind, I want to do something positive, or for others also. So I started thinking, like, what can I do in my free time beside, playing and talking and meeting up. And so it was about when I was 11 or 12. And I knew that there was this elderly home right across the street. And I was like, there are probably so many little omas and opas, or for those who don't know that word, like grannies sitting, or do I say grannies?
Grandma, grandpa.
Yeah, grandfathers sitting there alone, maybe have no visit, or and also I had on mind, and the nurses are probably understaffed, because that was also something I knew that this was always there. So I decided, like, how about if I go there and just ask the nurses if I can help them while I visit, maybe a few, and maybe I can play some games with them. And they were so surprised. I was young. And they said, well, Monique, we have one little Oma. She's always alone, and she is very old, and I still know her name. She was about 90, but mentally totally fit. And she was so happy that when I started visiting her, she was talking about her childhood, how she grew up, what she was, and what she did. And she had a son, but he had no time, or didn't make time to visit her. And her biggest wish was, she always told me, Monique, I'm sitting here on this bed, and while I watch outside the window, because this is almost everything I can do, I see how the season is changing, for how it turns from the spring to the summer, then autumn, and then finally it's winter. And she said, and I love winter. And she said, oh, well, what would I give to be outside in the snow and have a snowball in my hands? And that's what I did. When winter was, I told her, come on, we're going to go outside. And she said, Monique, well, how do we go outside? I cannot walk. And I said, well, I have a wheelchair here. She said, yeah, but my jacket. I said, here is your winter jacket. She said, I don't know if I can fit it. So I said, you're going to fit in. I have this blanket. And I put that jacket on, and she was sitting in a wheelchair, and I took her outside, and she was crying. It was really just sitting her down in this wheelchair, drive her down with an elevator, which was really no biggie, and just was outside, and it was snowing. And I made her this snowball, and she took it up. She took it up to her room and put it outside on her window, so she could always have it again to touch it because she loved it. She loved that icy feeling, and
No nurses bothered. Well, they probably didn't even
they
have the
had no
time.
time.
Yeah. Were you the only one that age hanging around and visiting?
Yeah. I had one classmate. She did that with me, but she also loved, more. I do understand that to hang out
Mm-hmm.
with with our age
Yeah.
people and play. Yeah. But I visited her, and I do remember one time. I think I was on holiday or what, and then I wanted to visit her, and I went up there, and I was standing in front of her door, and I was like, something looks different here. And then I looked at that name shield and I was like, where's her name? Am I wrong? Did I took the wrong route? And then I went to the nurse and they see me how I was standing and they say, Monique, you didn't visit us for a while. I said, yeah, we were on holiday. She said, I have to tell you about something. And I was like, And then she said, come on, we're going to sit down, Monique. And then she told me that she passed, that was the first contact for me, or that I heard like someone made it over the bridge, and
Yeah.
I was sitting there, I was crying, and oh my God, she was like my little Oma.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Yeah, I hope you can handle it." But I was pretty attached to her though. But yeah,
And not to fast forward too far, but even to
hmm
this day, you still have
hmm
you still have older. We're talking
those are
about
my best
older
friends for
friends
85.
that you go visit, you go
Crystal,
see
she's
how they're doing.
85.
You take our
Yeah.
little dog over to them. You a couple of them, one who just recently passed away.
Mhm.
Well, there was a few actually that
Yeah.
passed away, and but the
Yeah.
Get the
Mhm.
recent one, and he
Yeah.
was it both? He had one leg amputated, right?
70.
And the
Yeah.
same thing
Yeah.
that you were
One
you
leg
were
and
doing for him, you were getting him out of his bed. He hadn't been out of his bed, I don't know for how long, but these are
mm,
people that you
6 years.
still visited, you still built a relationship with, and you still brought light to their house and
Yeah.
a few of them, well, actually both of them that I'm speaking of, you brought me over and I was able to meet them, and then they were very sweet and so
Mm,
thankful to have you. But I know that's just a part of you. That's just who
yeah.
you are. And it's from 11 years old, even
Mm,
before 11
yeah.
to now.
Those are just the ones I don't know why it is so. I mean, Crystal, she's 85. Yeah.
Crystal,
So,
yeah, she still
so
calls. She'll call.
she
She'll
calls. Yeah. Where when we talk, goodness, it's
You
so
go
much fun.
visit her, you go
I
have
the
cake and
Yeah.
coffee with her, and
Uh,
yeah,
mhm.
she's
Yeah. She's so cool. Yeah.
hmm so you had that at a very young age, and
hmm
then
Well,
eventually
also
found you. Hmm?
Also, in that elderly home, I visited that one specific lady. But then just a little funny story, because then the nurses asked me. They said, "Monique, you want to play a game with someone?" I said, "Yeah, okay." And so I started playing that game with that one Oma, and she was getting mad at me, and I was like, "Why do you yell?" And then she started throwing the dice at me, and I was like, "Damn, what is going on here?" She was highly dement, but I had
Oh,
no idea. I was just so confused that she did all that and that she was yelling at me. She threw everything at me. So I I really learned like all these different shapes of us and different mental states, different diseases, different opinions, different ages, everything. And that was always so fascinating for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
that beat watching
And
TV.
oh, yeah. I never was the type to watch TV a lot. Mm-mm. I could
I
not
know
focus anyway.
that's one thing I'm always bringing, and especially because of where you come from and everything, and there was no kind of like how I always bring up, to
Mm,
to this day, I'll bring up references to movies and
yeah.
TV shows, and like, do you not know
No.
how it was for me growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have none of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had TVs though, but I was not really interested
Yeah,
in the on when we still had the East Side.
that's right. No, you were doing it right. You were embracing the world and all the people inside of it. You were embracing life.
Mm-hmm.
Put it like that.
Yeah, I was outdoorsy. I mean, we all probably
Hmm.
around our age, we were all outdoorsy, and I was a little bit tomboyish. I told you that, but I was riding
Yeah,
motorcycles, no license, of course.
that's right.
I always had more boyfriends. They taught me how to repair it, and they taught me how to drive, and yeah.
Hmm.
So that was always my thing. Be outside, and yeah.
Yeah. And eventually, you found
Hmm.
yourself in Frankfurt following
Yeah,
your heart and your
yeah.
desire to want to help people and to want to become
Hmm.
a nurse. And that's where you went to do your apprenticeship. And you were a nurse for how long?
Well, now it's 23 years.
23
Hmm.
years. How
Yeah,
about, can you talk a little bit about how it was for you when you got involved with it?
hmm,
And
yeah.
I mean, you can probably write a book
Oh
about
yeah.
everything that you seen, you dealt with, you experienced in the nursing
Mm,
field, but just I guess how it was like your expectations when you
yeah.
first got into it, and then how things
Mm,
how how they kind of evolved
yeah.
and how you started feeling later on in your
Mm,
years when you had some experience and time under your belt.
hmm. So in school, I was never a good pupil. To say that, I was lazy. I never
I don't believe
brought.
it.
Oh, you can believe me. You can ask my mom. I was lazy. Never did homework. I'd rather spend time outside. What is homework for? And all that nonsense we had to learn. I was like, I never need all that. So it never made really sense. I was lazy, brought home bad notes, but I always managed to make it. So that was different when I started my apprenticeship as a nurse, because this was truly something I wanted to do and where I had a compassion in me for that. I
Okay,
would,
wait, to not to what
mm,
to cut you off. You mean when you were in grade school and everything,
in
you were
grade,
lazy,
yeah,
but then
yeah,
because that wasn't where your
yeah.
interest was at. I
Yeah,
got it.
in
Okay.
school, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. In my school years, like high school or junior or what, I was I was lazy. But while I did my apprenticeship, I was the best pupil you could imagine. I was so compassionate. It was a lot of stuff to learn and to study, but I had no problem to sit down after 8 hours of school or after 8 hours of shift to still read something or to still learn and study for a test which was upcoming. And I brought home really like good grades, A's. My mom was saying, like, and you never brought home such a good grade when you was in school. I said, well, this is something I really want to do. And after a shift, my doctors knew me because I was so interested in everything. I wanted to know everything and everything. And then they told me, Monique, we have a interesting surgery going on. You want to join? And I was always, even after 8 hours, others were hanging out. They were going in bars. I said, okay. And then I did put the scrubs on and jumped into it and was watching the surgeries, because for me it was always uh, better to understand seeing it, uh,
Yeah.
see it, and then to learn and understand what is really going on, or what is meant when we speak about this and that. So yeah, I was spending a lot of time studying, but it was hard. That's when I realized not everything is so rosy red, how I was thinking, hoping, expecting, however you want to put it. Because of course, when you have maybe when you have deaf people, or people dying, or people really really sick, suffering, nobody's told us like how to handle it. They say, "Oh yeah, take your distance," and we were 17. We were like, "What do they mean with take your distance? Like, should we step away or what?" We didn't understand that they wanted to tell us. How can I explain that?
Try to not get attached to them.
Attach, yeah.
But it's like, I mean, if you have a heart, sometimes it's pretty hard to
Yeah,
do.
and it's easier said than done. And a lot of my colleagues, they were suffering with that for a long time because they didn't know how. They were like, damn, I should take my distance, not be too attached. How? This person is just so nice, and that was something and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still to that day wishing that new pupils are getting more help or counseling and schooling for that. What does that mean? Because it
Mm-hmm.
is very, very important to know how to do it for for ourselves. And yeah, that there are a lot of shocking moments because we have nurses which are just harsh. They don't give a who. They put you in a situation not even thinking about what they do, how old you are, if you can handle it or not. It's not that they pat you on your shoulder and say, "Oh, you did that good." That's not the case. I mean, I had my first deaf
Mm-hmm.
person when I was 16. Imagine that, 16, and they didn't even tell me what I will see or expect. It was dramatic, traumatic. It was
Wow.
no bueno.
So they pretty much just throw you in the deep waters
Yeah.
and you have to start dealing with all this stuff that, I mean, you might have, some
Mm,
people might have an idea when they get into the nursing field that it might get bloody, it might get
mm,
gory, and
yeah.
it's going to be some things that are going to be intense. But I
Hmm.
mean, you can have that in your mind and try to prep yourself for it, but nothing is like once
Hmm.
it's finally there and you're feeling it
No.
on you and you're seeing it and you're in the middle of it. That's something completely different. Like you said, it's got to be,
Mm,
I'm sure a lot
right.
of nurses, it's traumatic. People that aren't even psychologically fit themselves or developed
We
emotionally.
were half children still. And the other thing is, to control ourselves. They just say, yeah, you have to stay in the situation. If For an example, if someone feels nauseous and they have to vomit or what, yeah, you have to help them. Damn. my my best friend back then, she said, "Monique, I'm laying down when this happens." She said, "I'm laying down." She said, "I cannot handle this." And she said, "How do I learn this?" She said, "Just when I hear someone gagging or the
Mm-hmm.
smell." She said, "I'm dying." And so nobody really taught us, how can you stay in this situation? We are humans. Come on, do some people really think
Mm-hmm.
nurses can handle everything. This is not the case. Yeah, there are still some they cannot see blood, and there are nurses they don't like to brush teeth, or it's always expected that we can handle everything, and we are there for that.
That you're
Yeah.
superhuman, but being treated and looked at like you're just
Yeah,
disposable.
but the thing is, a big difference. A big difference is how people, or how a lot of people in Europe or Germany especially, value us nurses, and how there is a difference to the United States. If when your mom heard, like, with my profession, she was like, "Oh my God, you're a nurse." And I was like, "What is this?" So what? Yeah. And she said, "Read, oh, on intensive care. Oh my God, this is, oh." And here you say you're a nurse. Oh, okay. A nurse? Yeah, nice.
Mm.
If you get there, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And on top of that, that's what you were involved with the whole 23 years, intensive care. And then you were also working in the psychiatric ward and with children, but children with disabilities and everything you could think of, any kind of condition.
I started with children around 6 years, yeah. And then in the psychiatric, I worked with addiction on a station for people who had addictions. And from there, I switched to the ICU, which was the hardest jump in my life, but I made it.
And just the amount, I mean, explain if you can
Mm,
walk people through how it felt like for you, because now you're at this time, you're a mother
mm,
and you're having to
mm,
put on your game face. And it's like every day when you clock
um,
in and step in,
mm,
it's like you're at a
battlefield.
thousand. Your all of your senses and your adrenaline is just at a
Mm,
thousand plus. It's go go go.
yeah, yeah. It was hard,
Highly
High,
stressful.
highly stressful, on the ICU. Yeah, it was.
That's putting
Yeah,
it lightly.
but um, that's where I function the best. Under stress, when it was loud and noisy, when there was a lot going on, under stress, I could work like 100%. I was having, of course, as soon as I came into my station, I was the nurse Monique, and I could handle everything. And when I was out, I just left my scrubs and I washed everything down, and then it was just me. But then, of course, I came home sometimes after a very busy run day and a lot of stress, and my little son was waiting for me, not knowing where I come from. And of course, then I had to be the mom and have had the house full of kids and was cooking and baking and playing, and that was sometimes very stressful. Stressful. Yeah, that I was laying down when my child was laying down.
Mm.
Yeah, but working 3 shifts, of course, that's where you then. Yeah.
3 shifts also. Yeah, you
Mm.
gotta.
And we over here we work sometimes because we were always understaffed. It was kind of normal to work like 12 days straight, and you had, like, let's say, 7 mornings, a few lates, and then the rest were nights, and then you had maybe 2 days off, and then here we go again, 12 days straight. And that's how it was. And we expanded with all the machines, and it was always the newest standards, the newest things we had to have on our ICU. So it was always a lot of learning. It was always more put on our shoulders, because also we run a different system than in the United States. Yeah, over here on ICU there is no such thing like CNAs and all these different nurses. There is one nurse, and this one nurse is doing it all. We take the blood samples, we check the blood samples, we give the medication, we do it all.
Washing, you
Washing,
clean
yeah,
them.
we wash them. We do everything. We take care of the food. We gonna put the tubes in. If there is, of course, like a CPR going on or someone has to get intubated, that was when we call our doctor. But beside that, yeah, we over here you do it all. And then
You wear all the
yeah,
hats.
then you have to do to assist. We had also a lot of open tummies where we had to do the surgeries on station. You are doing the anesthesia. You are working with, you have hands on that. It was always very busy, but yeah, like I said, that was where I functioned pretty good under stress.
And that's kind of hard to be able to separate yourself from, like, after you're done with working, okay, now
Mm.
it's back to being um just
Yeah.
just regular
Mm-hmm.
Monique.
Me.
But never mind everything that you've
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
seen,
It's like
everything that you've
toothpaste. Yeah.
dealt with. You have family members that
Mm-hmm.
are probably at times,
Yeah.
they're broken and they don't
Mm.
they're panicking and they're a
Yeah.
mess. And then on top of that, you have lives that are at
Mm.
stake. And I mean, there's a lot of things going on in an intensive care unit. It's not your typical people are
Mm.
going in there for, just ingrown toenail or something.
Right. And also, my social life was not there. You get asked when you're a nurse and when you work shift, maybe once, like, okay, Monique, you want to join us? We're going to go into the bar. Okay. And I had to say, like, maybe, no, I cannot because I'm working. Okay. That was the first no. Then they ask you, maybe one more, do you want to join? We go this night. Then I have to say, oh, no, I have to sleep because I work night or whatever. And then people don't ask you no more. So friends fall apart. I was always too tired even I had one day off,
Yeah.
I was not feeling
I
it.
mean, one
And
day is
then
after working 12 days
yeah,
straight.
yeah, you're just pooped.
That's
And
one
then,
day just to try to recover for another 12.
right. And then, and that's why I was getting pretty unsocial though. But I
Mm-hmm.
liked it in a kind of way. It was quiet around me. I just had my son and his friends, all that family stuff. Yeah.
And you also, I mean, like even the I mean, we're talking also about physical labor. Like you have people that are weighing 200, 300
Yeah.
kilos that you have to move. And if it's
Hmm.
nothing but women there and there's no men to
Yeah.
assist you, it's got to be done. This body has to be moved.
Hmm.
And there's a lot that came with it, like wearing on your body, tearing on your body, not just emotionally and psychologically. That does count for a lot, but also physically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on ICU, we had a few male nurses, but still, we had all no time. And it's not that we have one patient to take care of. No, we had two, three, and sometimes four. And that's so much when they're all sedated. I mean, probably the nurses
Four
who
four patients in one shift that you had to
I had
look
to,
after.
yeah, and probably the nurses who are listening now, maybe the German or European, they know that problem, but maybe in other countries it's different. Like I think in England, they have, well, one nurse, one patient, but we had to take care sometimes of four intubated and sedated patients. And if one of the four was unstable, and really needed a lot of attention, you was pretty much running around like a chicken, yeah. And that was, it was a battlefield, really. But,
Mm-hmm.
and then also, we had a good professor though, but he always said, okay, then we're going to close one box. We cannot do that when you're understaffed. And I see, you're just grinding it down. But then we had new machineries and this new machine. Then we did ECMO therapy and external lung systems and all that, which was weighing so heavy on us. And normally then we said, okay, if we have one patient who has an external lung system, this is a one-on-one case. It never was. Okay, but I see you can handle this person and maybe another one, an easy one. And so we did. We had to. It was so stressful. I realized, when I always try to help my colleagues when they say, Monique, can you help me? I have to, change them or what? Okay, I'm there. If I was calling, hello, nobody was there. So
Yeah,
yeah, so you
crickets.
do.
Everybody's on
Yeah,
pause.
so we had no pause. We were inhaling our Brötchen, our bun, while going to the toilet also.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so of course I had to do a lot of labor work on my own, and that was not good for my health. And then I worked on that ICU where we had almost just obese patients, yeah, and we are talking about 250 kilo and up. I don't know how that is in
That's 400 plus
yeah,
pounds.
hmm,
That's a lot of
yeah,
meat
and
to have to move
that was
around.
that was the hardest. So
And it has to
mhm,
get done. And you were you got into it for the right reasons. You had a heart for it. You had the
mhm,
compassion. You had that love for wanting to help people and to be of
mhm,
service to people that were in need. But throughout the years, I guess little by little, because also it came to a point where you it was almost like enough was enough, right? I mean, some people feel like this is that they either feel trapped in a career,
Mm,
especially considering how much time you put into it, how much schooling you had to do, how
mm,
much that dedication it was to be where you're at and to get the credentials to where you can work in the ICU unit and
mhm.
you can have the career that you always wanted. And for some, that's that it's kind of hard for them to let it all go and start
Mhm.
anew. But for
Yeah.
you, it finally there was a point in your life where you made a decision to pull away from it, huh? To hang up the
Yeah.
scrubs.
Yeah, but that was really not an easy decision though, because when I started on the ICU, I had a hard start because they thought they just see me, oh, there's this young, sweet, and beautiful looking blondie who probably just looks good, but knows nothing. And that's how it
She's an airhead.
yeah, and that's how it was. I started there and I seen an artery where I could take a blood sample, and I was like, "What is this?" I really started from scratch, but I did it. I really studied hard, and I made it to one of the top-notch nurses. I went to schoolings and schoolings and schoolings and schoolings, and I did a pretty good job. But like you said, it was I worked this full time job, plus I had a side job. Why? Because I never made enough money. On ICU with 3 shifts, just to put one out when I started, with how much I went home. On my paycheck was written 1,400 or 1,500 euros for that labor work. In other countries, they make the double, and I worked like 180 hours in a month, 3 shifts,
Damn.
and doing really labor
And
work.
sometimes 12 days a week.
And yeah,
Or not sometimes, but that was often.
yeah, that was very often. And then I had a side job. Sometimes beside the morning shift, I went to an elderly home to work a late shift. Because I thought like I want to travel, I want to go somewhere with my child, right? And so I had to do that. Yeah, and it was wearing me thin, and I started realizing like, damn, my back hurts. I always had issues since a child, that I always had back pain. I went to the doctor several times. They always told me I'm too young to have this pain. There is nothing. Do you have whatever? Are you sad? I said no. I have just this tremendous pain in my back. Oh well, then they put me on medication. Sometimes I was popping the pills like it's nothing, like candy, so I could function. I go to work, and then they put me on Tilidine, and that was the opioid. And then I was like, damn, wait a minute, this is not correct. I have to take it so I can somewhat sleep, maybe 4 hours or what, and then to go to work. And I realized it was still getting worse. And then a doctor of me, she noticed that I had a weak hand. Everything was falling out of my hand, that I always had stiff necks. And she was the one, she said, Monique, we have to get you in a scan, though. Something isn't right. And that's what we did. And that was when I brought her the pictures, our neurosurgeons came out of the OR, and she said, here, have a look. Uh, and then they were looking at my pictures, and they were saying like, what is this? 85-year-old man? What should we do? This is worn out. And she said, no, this is from Monique. And I was not, I was maybe 26 or so. And they were looking like, damn, this is not good. And I said, what is not good? They always say I have nothing. They say you have a lot going on here. So
They were telling you that it was psychological at one point,
yeah,
huh?
they always ask me, "Are you sad? Do you have mental problems?" And I say, I'm pretty good. I have no mental problems. I just have pain."
Man.
And those neurosurgeons, they were seeing where that came from, and they tried to help me. And then they said, "Do you take medicine?" And I said, "Well, they put me on Tilidine, but I don't want to take it no more, so I reduced it, and I'm not taking nothing." And they said, "How do you function So, uh, yeah, that was that whole odyssey. And then they said, okay, if you feel something goes worse, and that was with my neck, yeah, if something feels different, always come. And that's what I did. And they knew when I came, they knew something really changed. They always put me in a scan, and then they see you was right, Monique, you know. And it was always getting to a worse
Mm-hmm.
point, but still, where they didn't want to do surgery because I was so young, they told me not to ride a roller coaster, not to do this, that, and the other things because yeah,
Yeah, you got to be very careful. No
yeah,
skating, no anything that can cut. You
yeah.
can
But I
trip
did
and
all that.
fall. It's not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. You only
Yeah,
live once.
and yeah, and that was, and I learned to just deal with it. Yeah.
With that kind of pain, I'm talking about the pain, and when I over here and I bang my fingers sometimes. I'm throwing a
Yeah, but
scene, and you have the tolerance, the pain tolerance of I don't know, a rhinoceros or something,
yeah,
Godzilla.
nah.
But that was at 26, and you continue to
Oh
work. You
yeah.
were still
Oh
working in
yeah. I was still
ICU.
working in ICU.
When they said and looked at
Hmm.
they looked at these at
Yeah.
first, them looking at these
Hmm.
scans, these CAT scans and X-rays, thinking this is an 85-year-old
Hmm. Yeah.
man. It's a 26-year-old
Hmm.
woman, and you're still working in the ICU.
Right. I worked even harder, and then but that led me also to question our medicine, you know. So I was like, okay, they put me on Tilidine, nothing really changed. My brain got fuzzy, but the pain was there. So what is it doing? It's really doing nothing. And then, I just had a lot of questions on my mind, even on ICU. And then I started more reading about homeopathic ways, are there treatments which are maybe useful for me? And so I found out a few good things, and also for my patients. So I did extra schooling for essential oils in human medicine, and I started to implement that on my station. Even when when the doctors were laughing at me, when someone had a high
Mm-hmm.
fever and the medication was not working, I was like, okay, then I'm gonna wash them with peppermint oil, or uh, with sage when they had a lot of salvia going on, and then they were always like,
Yeah.
what did you do? And then I told him, I said, you can laugh about me, but this is what I do. And then finally, after a long time, it got respected, and we made it to a point that was a kind of standard we were working with, that we all started washing with essential oils when they had fever. We had
You
diffused
changed the game.
somewhat.
Yeah, at least I mean
Hmm.
it. Like sometimes they say if you can complain about something and then just but go along with it. But
Hmm.
you went ahead, even though you maybe if you would have announced it to them and said
Hmm.
this is what I want to do, they probably would have shut it
Oh
down.
yeah.
But then you just go ahead and
Hmm.
do it and see that it's
And I
working, and
showed
now they
them.
can't. Yeah, they can't do nothing but um approve of it.
Hmm.
It's like look at the proof is in the
I
pudding,
was always,
and now they're doing it themselves.
yeah, and you know me. I mean, others don't, but I was always, and I'm still a little rebellious when it comes to
That's right.
when it,
I maybe that's why we get along so
yeah,
well.
yeah, and that was also I always stood my ground, and it never mattered to me how young I was or how old the person was in front of me or who he was. If it was my professor and I told him to shut the fuck up and to listen right now to me what I have to
Hmm.
say, I said it that way. And
That's right.
and I did that because I do remember I got very frustrated, and that was the first time in my whole career where I really thought like, this is it. I don't want to do this no more. if my work is not respected, because we as nurses, our tool is our vision and our senses. We sometimes come into the room and we sense like, this is like a raw eggs. Maybe something is boiling right here. Maybe something is, we just have that gut feeling. And we use our senses, our eyes, we look at the patients. We are there with them 8 hours close. We can see, we can smell, we can sense the situations out so good. And if this tool is underrated or underestimated and not heard and respected by a doctor, I was like, okay, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And that's what I told my professor, because we had that one very young patient, and he was, in my opinion, in a lock-in syndrome. He was reacting, all that shenanigans. And I told this to my doctor, please put him in a scan again. They said, he's a vegetable, brain death, and the way they talked. And I said, can you please stop talking in front of this patient like that? He is listening. He can hear you 100% clear. Even he cannot move his toe. Even he just maybe slightly can blink. I'm sure he's in a lock-in syndrome. They told me I'm too involved in this case.
What is a lock-in syndrome?
A lock-in. He had a reanimation, like a CPR going on in front, and this is what can happen afterwards, when they say like the brain didn't have enough oxygen. Yeah. And he's kind of like brain dead or a vegetable. He's not waking up correctly. He's not having reflexes as normal. And
so they're speaking any old way because they're in their minds, they're thinking he can't hear us anyways.
Yeah. But he could. He could. He did. I did the yes and no thing with 1 blink and 2 blinks. And when I put him his earphones on and he could hear his little daughter talking to him, he was crying.
But even if that was the case, it's like it's just the respect of this is still a person right here.
Yeah, right.
Even if he can't hear you or nothing like that, like, come on now, let's speak about this is a human being.
Yeah, and that's a sad truth. It's not like that.
So what happened with, you were talking about because of,
Yeah, because I told them, I think he's showing reaction. And they said, Mo, you're too involved. I said, can it be that he is maybe in a lock-in syndrome? He maybe cannot move nothing, but I see he is reacting. His hairs are standing up when I wash him. When I talk to him, he's crying. He's, he can blink with, no. And then they were like, just brushing it off. And that pissed me off. And I took all the papers from him, threw it on the floor, and got into the face of my professor. And my professor was almost 2 meters high. And I said, you know what? If you don't respect me and what I see and what I tell you, what does it do if we just put him in a scan and check him again? What does it do to you? I said, just respect my word. And if you don't do it, I feel like I have a bad stomach ache right now. And I think I have to go home. And they said, you cannot go home. I said, no, but I think I get diarrhea right now. And I left the station. I was like, if I don't go out of this situation right now.
Yeah.
I could. And I said, my word is not, you don't hear my word. So what am I doing here? I can go. And that's what I showed them. And I left. And the next day, my professor, he came to me and he said that he want to have a talk with me. I thought like, shit, this is it now. And he shut the door and he sat down with me. And he said, Monique, I have to apologize. And I said, And he said, I have to apologize. I said, why? I said, yesterday everything was fine for you. He said, yeah, but you was totally right. He said, I have to respect you because without you, this station would not function. And he said, I listen to you. I hear your word, and we're going to put him in a scan. And it was shown that he was in a lock-in syndrome. And I said, never ever disrespect a word of a nurse. And never ever don't hear what a nurse has to say to you. But he was cool, you know. He was really
Mm-hmm.
thinking probably his action to other professor
Yeah, he
probably would say
reflected
like,
on that.
oh my God, who's this nurse, you know. But yeah, I stood my ground. I knew that I
Mm-hmm.
can go there and probably they would say we're gonna fire you for that action, but I was like, I don't give a fuck. I can find a job around the corner everywhere.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't even the first time. I mean, you can go on for days about
Oh
all the
my God.
times that the not the nurses, well, probably the nurses too, but the doctors, they would undermine your
Mm-hmm.
they would pretty much they wouldn't
Opinions
respect
or
your
beliefs.
opinion, your professional opinion, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not like you're just Joe
Mm-hmm.
Schmo off the street. You went to school, you know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you've been involved and
Mm-hmm.
experienced in it for quite some time, but sometimes they still look down at what you're saying or who's
Oh yeah.
saying it, and they don't take your words as meaning anything. And sometimes because of that, patients, they don't make it.
Yeah. That's right. And we are, you know, we have to shut our mouths. We see so many things go wrong. I don't want to put no fear out, but we have to just be quiet. If we wanted to have a talk to ethic commission or what, no, that was all brushed off. We had to hush hush and be quiet about it. That we sometimes we were crying together. We nurses, you know, we were crying together. We tried to figure a situation out, talking to each other, so we could go home with lighter shoulders. But that was us. We never had counseling. Even they
Yeah.
have to give you in certain situations. That was not the case. And on the other end, sometimes you think like, oh, all these nurses they function so good together, and this is like a super community on this station, and they work together. It's one.
Mm-hmm.
You.
It's one big family.
This is not the case. So, a lot of times, this is not the case. You are a player on your own. As weird as it sounds, I always loved, you know, when someone knew a lot of things. I was listening. I knew I could go there, and that was an effort for me too, you know, to learn and to have someone. But some, they found that, oh, you know, she's Miss I know it all, or I see she's the preferred nurse to,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of
Some feel threatened by that.
yeah. Hmm. And that's why you get pretty lonely also. Yeah.
So it was that one incident with the young man. It was after that that you started to have different feelings about if you want to
Oh
continue
yeah.
continue on that path.
Yeah, then I changed. Hmm. Plus, you know, my health. And then I tried to go into the OR in that one clinic, and I applied for it. They had open positions, and then they said, yeah, you can do that. And then they said, oh no, you cannot do that because you're understaffed on ICU, so we cannot let you go. And I said, all right, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Like maybe is it in a few weeks or yeah, in 3 months. All right. So I struggled through my 3 months, and then I applied again or said, hello, can I now switch to the OR? Because, you know, my condition is not so good. I still want to work, but this heavy labor work is really not doing me good. No, and that was 3 times where they denied me in that one clinic. They always told me yes and then no, yes, and then I said, okay, I'm not your clown in this circus no more. I just go, you know. And then I went into another clinic, and yeah, but it was always labor work.
Yeah.
It never worked out, and I couldn't. I was not ready to accept it, and I was not ready even after my first spinal fusion. You know it. I was not ready to accept it. I still worked
Mm-hmm.
intensive care, and it took me a very long time till this year. I had no other chance to. I was a nurse by heart. Still am. I still do miss it, but also I am happy now, and I see the benefits that I don't have to do that. Because the other time where I wanted to hang my scrub on was when the uh, can I say that word? Corona? when the
Yeah, why
when the
not?
Coroli
Yeah, the
hit.
Caroli. We call it the Caroli. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was that. Wait, that pretty much was the last push,
that
wasn't it?
was that was my last push. Yeah, that was when
But I
I
mean, they
said,
pretty much forced your hand,
yeah,
or
because
they
I don't.
tried to.
Yeah, because I was one of the nurses that wanted to get the vaccine because we seen and heard and what went wrong and what could happen. And I said, all right, I don't do that. They never asked me in all my years if I'm vaccinated or if I need a new vaccine. Maybe in fall they say, we have the flu vaccine. Does anyone uh, want the flu vaccine? Nobody ever said yes, and that was quite okay. And then they forced it on me that I had to get that corona vaccine. Where I said, like, I have all that security you want me to. I'm wearing all the gear, and what is this? And that just was not sitting right with me. And I said, all right, I seen it all, I done it all, and I learned a difference. So and I don't want to be part of that. That
After
was
23 years,
yeah. They told me that
they gave you a deadline, didn't
yeah,
they?
the Gesundheitsamt, the health office, they wrote the letter that that I'm not able to put one foot in when I am unvaccinated. And I was like, all right, I never heard of them before, but if they have to say so and not my boss, then I know what I have to do. And
All of the time that you put in, all of the years of
yeah,
getting your school updates and your credentials up to
and
par and learning the
how
new
often,
equipment.
yeah, and how often we as nurses from ICU, from the emergency rooms, how often we have contact with infections and diseases we don't even have an idea of when the people come in.
You have AIDS patients, you
Yeah,
have
we have
everything.
open tuberculosis patients where we're like afterwards like, oh, they have open tuberculosis who had contact, Monique.
They
Yeah,
didn't care
you
about your health. They didn't
may
care about if you were going to be okay or if you
no.
anything was transmitted.
No, we had our colleagues to intubate because she got infected by the open tuberculosis. No, nobody knew her before. All that.
You even had a colleague who contracted AIDS at
Yeah.
work, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
going
And
on.
how often we had to intubate people because they were uh, short on breath and very unstable and whatnot. And then afterward to find out, oh, they had the H1, and all these kind of flus which we had these last years.
Hmm.
H1 N1, what is that?
Yeah,
H1 N2. I don't know if that is in English the same.
H1N1, I think
Yeah.
H1N1.
And we had the SARS. Yeah, we had
Hmm.
now it's called SARS
You worked
2.
through all of that.
We had the SARS 1, and that was a pretty hard time. And we had to fly out patients all the time to other clinics and close beds. Or when EHEC was, that was Escherichia coli short outbreak.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've seen it all.
You worked through all that, and they weren't really too
No,
concerned about how
no,
protected
we
you
never,
were or
never
how.
were forced to, you have to wear this mask or what. We just did it because out of our own, because we never knew what the patient is bringing. And
Right. Yeah.
FFP2, that was the lowest mask, when we thought like they can have maybe a tuberculosis or what, we were wearing the hardcore ones, those ri- big
Yeah.
filters.
You guys were dressed
Yeah.
up like you're going
And then
to
I
the
seen all
moon.
these nurses taking pictures. That was weird to me. They were all taking pictures with their masks and goggles and all that nonsense on. Like, and I was thinking, like, why do they do that? This is nothing really so special. What is this?
Ah.
And then how
Oh,
the
you mean because you've already been
because we
you that's
it's the
normal.
normal thing, yeah. When there's someone in isolation, and then how the rubber is pinching into your skin, and that's how I looked after a 8-hour shift.
Mm.
And
That was all part of the
that was
show.
my well, that was the a normal shift, and that was my kind of work here. And then for whatever reason, everybody took the pictures. Like, look how I look now. I go into an isolation room. Ooh,
Hmm.
I probably get a lot of shitstorm maybe here.
It was almost how do you put how would not a blessing in disguise, but I mean because your health was already broken because of all of the years of you working in ICU, and you were going hard. You were going
Hmm.
1,000%
Yeah,
every day. Never mind the toll that it was
hmm,
taking on your body, but it was
yeah,
like this is what that's what you were. This is what you love to do. This is who you are. I mean, even to this, it's not gonna it doesn't leave you. You're still a nurse by
yeah,
heart. You still like I
hmm,
said, even after you've been away from an
yeah.
ICU unit,
It
you're
will
still
never
making
end.
home visits to people that are disabled, amputees, everything, and you're
Mm-hmm.
still just out of the love and the goodness of your heart, and that's where you find your
Unable.
joy and
Hmm.
meaning is
Yeah.
to involve yourself with that. And so there's still people to this day that are in your life that you met, that you've given a hand in that kind of way, but
Hmm.
it was because of that slip, that
Yeah.
notice, that deadline that you were like, well, then
Hmm.
there was never
Yeah.
any let me think about it because I've already given them 23 years of my life. You
Mm.
just in your mind you were like, well then, I guess I'm going to start looking for work somewhere else.
Mm. Here and there, that came up. But I was always thinking, when you work there, you always self doubt yourself. Like, I cannot do anything else.
This
You
is what
always
I
think,
know.
like, this is what I know. That's false, people. That's really false.
And then on top of that, how would you feel like you've already given 23 years of your life into something, and then
Mm.
you're becoming of age. You're a
Yeah.
middle-aged woman now. And it's
Oh,
like, so
yeah.
I'm supposed to learn something new? Some people feel like, why would I throw it all
Yeah.
away?
And I started studying on my own. I did my psychological counselor. I did my naturopath and did my naturopath and psychotherapy for my own reason, that I can speak to my patients and help the families, in a nice way, to talk with them and to help them also to the traumas they had to go through. So it's never too late to study, to learn something. And yeah, with my last surgery, I had to go out of the job because now I'm unable to work this labor work. Yeah.
Well, the first one, let's talk. How did that one come about? Like it just got to the point where the pain was unbearable, right? Because you were dealing with this pain for so
Mm.
long. It pretty much was
Yeah.
just it's a party. I mean, even to this day, it's
Mm.
you wake up in the morning, I see you. It throughout the
Always.
day, the pain is there, and it's the discomfort is there. It's something that you just have learned to live with. But my goodness, like with the first surgery was the spinal
Mhm.
fusion.
Yeah, that was my lower back fusion where I barely could walk. Yeah, and then they did a blood sample because they were wanted to check if I have some maybe genetically if there is something wrong. And then there was one blood marker where they called me and said, how are you doing, where are you? And I said, excuse me, I'm at work. And they said, oh, you better go home. And I said, why? Yeah, because this one sample is so high, this is not good. And did you do sport? And I said, no. And then they said, you have to drink now eight
Mm-hmm.
liters and to flush your kidneys, because oh my god, and that was like something is wrong. And then the doctor, they put me in a scan, and then they seen that something was way wrong, and I had to have the surgery. But then the corona was, then they had to put me a month later. And yeah, finally it was. And throughout the surgery they had to take pictures because they never seen a fire red nerve like I had.
What was the levels? That like a normal level, and where your levels were at?
I was as CK is is normally for a woman like 130, and I was on 11,000.
11. Now I don't even know what that means, but just if you compare from 100 to 11,000.
I said, this is wrong. I said, this cannot be. And we had a laying trauma. As someone maybe fell in our apartment and was laying there for 2, 3 days, yeah, and couldn't move till they got found. They have a sample I seen like the highest was 6,000, and they were in bad shape, and I had 11,000.
And you're still walking around, you're working,
Yeah.
you're cooking, you're doing
Mm-hmm.
hula hoop.
Nee, I didn't hula
Ah,
hoop
that's
then, boo
right.
boo. I could not. That came after.
Yeah.
I bought me a stick and all that.
Yeah, I got to the point where
Mm.
it was that extreme, but we're talking about, okay, now you're
Yeah,
already how many years later of
yeah,
this where you would bring it to people's attention? They didn't want to x-ray you when they like I
yeah.
remember just how many since we've known each other and just how fed up and frustrated it's like what's the point then? But it finally
Mm.
got to the
Yeah,
point where now they're like, wait a minute, okay, you need to drink some water, leave your job,
yeah.
come here, something isn't right. And then,
Something isn't right. Yeah. Because I mean, also if you remember, I started shaking and the leg was shaking,
yeah,
and then they had to even test me on MS, and
multiple
I was like, damn,
sclerosis.
I just have pain. It feels like something is eating me up alive. Is something with my nerves or well? And then they finally seen that there was a totally instability in my lower spine, and then they had to fuse that, and that was that.
And how long was that surgery again?
That was just 4 hours.
Just 4 hours.
Yeah, 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 around 4 hours, 3.5 or so.
And it was spinal
Yeah,
fusion.
that was the lower back.
What was the doctor saying after the surgery, like as far as the recovery goes and how long you should expect to?
Oh, well, they were pretty good. I could stand up in the evening though and walk around, and it already felt better. But then the next day, you couldn't visit me because of the corona. That was another shitty thing. And then the other day, I felt nerve pain. This is really very ugly. So my legs were like burning inside, and they knew that that's always a sign of swelling, and so they had to give me high cortisone. After that, that was fine, but I had my blown up moon face. And yeah, I think after five
Mm-hmm.
days I came home and recovered pretty fast, and they don't even want to send me in a rehabilitation center. You had the walk already for me here, and that's from there on I started, came home, rested. I was always tired. All the people who had some surgeries on their spine, they know what I'm talking about, because after that you're always tired and you want to sleep. Yeah, and I recovered pretty fast, and even started working in with intensive care patients. Yeah.
Yeah, but you were determined. You were
Yeah.
determined. You were laying down. You were tired, but we would walk around the block. We'd
Mm.
walk around the block, and it got to the point like we're gonna take our route and go to the woods, and we're gonna walk through the woods now. And we doing what we
Mhm.
could, and little by little, and
Mhm.
then I remember coming home, and then you were already cooking again, and it's like you can't
Mhm.
keep this
Yep.
one down.
The recovery from that one was pretty good, and for me easier. What I can compare now to that other fusion from the neck. That one was kicking my ass.
Okay, so that was the spinal fusion. I mean, that was no walk in the
Yeah.
park because it was a that's a sensitive area, and there's a lot of things that could have went
Mm.
wrong. But thankfully,
Mm.
the surgery was a
Yeah.
success, and you were able to get back home sooner than
Mm.
later, and then work on your recovery. And then how long until this next one came up?
Oh, I thought now I'm good. Now I'm on top of life. And
Yeah.
it was, yeah, 1.5 years later, I was laying in the OR again. Yeah, now it's almost a year
But
ago.
how did that one come up again?
Because that's my neck issue, what I always had. And I felt like, I have pain and something feels different. And so when I had that feeling, I went to my doctor and say, here, I have more pain than usual. It feels a little funny to me. Can they immediately said, okay, we're gonna do a scan. And then we did that scan, and I went back, and then he was looking at the pictures, and he was sitting there with big eyes, and his hands on his head, and he was like, Monique, this is not good. And I said, okay, what does that mean? He said, we did that now for a lot of years, and you was always right when you came here, that something is wrong, and but now it is so wrong that we cannot leave it that way. You have to go through surgery finally. And I said, all right, and what does that mean? Because I could feel, sometimes my right leg was slurring, or I started stumbling even more than usual. I always had numb fingers, arms, and all that shenanigans, or my chin was getting numb. Yeah, and then I said, all right, then you're gonna do that. And he said, no, I cannot do that. And I said, why? You're my professional. He said, yeah, but this is too big of a surgery. I don't have the tools, and I'm not good at that. You have to go to another doctor I know. And I said, can I say the name?
Yeah, you can say the name.
To Dr. Dialak. And I said, well, I know him from the clinic because I worked with him shortly. And I knew he's an absolute hero in what he's doing. So I made an appointment and brought my pictures, and he looked at it, and he said, oh my Lord. He said, Monique, this really looks, because I was at his office also before, and he said, this got worse. And he said, damn. And I said, what? He said, I need a few days. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, definitely we have to do a surgery, Monique, but give me a few days. I have to speak that with the professor, how we do it. And because of what it seems like, we have to fuse you from C1 down to C7, which means like my whole neck spine would be fused. So I waited, and then he called me back in, and then he said, all right, so what we're going to do is we don't fuse you from C1 to C7, but what we have to do is we're going to fuse you from C3, those are the bones, right? From C3 down to C6, and the one bone, C5, we have to remove. And I said, what? You have to remove this? And he said, yeah, we have to put you like a bone implant in. And I said, shit, that sounds tricky. And he said, and that sure is. He said, this is no walk in the park. But he said, damn, I don't want to fuse you from, the whole spine. He said, then, I'm stiff. My neck is already stiff. I can really not rotate it to the right side. I'm not really good to the left side. Even the left side is always a little bit better. But then I would not be able to. And I said, all right, then do that. So yeah, then I had my appointment, and we did that, and it was like 7 hours or what? Round about that.
It was a couple days before the new year.
Yeah, on the 29th of December.
And at least this time around, I was able to visit you.
Oh yeah, that was my light. You was my light, my visit.
But what was it? 8 hours?
Yeah, around 7 hours or so. Yeah. That was a hard one. And then after I woke up,
man,
I was pretty stoned. They drug you pretty good, so I woke up with a catheter and all that shenanigan. Next day, I was able to walk somewhat. We don't speak about the care in the hospital because that was more than bad. There should be enough to that.
Yeah.
And but I made it. The worst thing for me was that I felt like, what is up with my left arm? Now, when he came to visit me, I said, did I had a stroke? And he looked at me. He said, why? I said, look, I cannot even lift my left arm right. I can lift it for a few seconds and it's falling down. I don't feel it. I said, what the heck is? He said, no, you don't had a stroke. this can happen due to, when they manipulate that C5 bone and the nerves and what, they're connected to the left arm. And I said, is that going away? And he said, yeah, it will recover. And then my voice was going away.
That's right.
And then I said, what is with my, yeah, you sound a little harsh. That's also normal. That will go away. Yeah, but it never went away.
To this day,
So,
you have to work on it.
yeah, even I sound nice. Yeah, that's just with my logopedic therapy.
That was work. You had to work at it. You took some therapy for it, because
Yeah.
if you were to just, how was it put? You just relax your muscles and everything, you would be sounding a different way.
Oh yeah, then I sound like that. Maybe people can, but that would be for me very relaxing to talk like that. So now, but I cannot do that. People probably think like, "Oh my god."
And that's always
Yeah,
something that you have to consciously
yeah.
work at, so you can sound like you once did.
Just like I once did, or equal to. I can hear that I don't sound that like I did. But you helped me so much. I can really give a big shout out to my hubby. He had to shower me, and he had to see me crying because I was so frustrated. I couldn't wash my hair alone. My arm was falling down. You done did it all, and you supported me in all kinds of ways. So through you, I recovered so good with your support and.
I mean,
I
that was a hard thing to see you that way. How, and I could only imagine. I couldn't. Well, in a way, I could feel it. I felt the pain, the struggle, the hurt, the frustration, but
mm,
nothing like what
yeah.
you have been going through for so long, pretty much damn
Mm,
near your whole life, with the pain, the discomfort, and then after the surgery, and then, I mean, you were
mm,
still, you made an effort, you would try, you have that, as much as you say you don't, but that fighting spirit
mm,
where nothing is going to keep you down. It might knock you down, might break you up a little bit,
mm.
but you're going to figure out how to put the
Oh yeah.
pieces back together. And so when you were struggling or trying
Yeah.
to clean yourself, or just do for yourself, and it wasn't working out,
Hmm.
but what were you doing? And that's what the show was all about. It's about taking back and
Mm,
reclaiming whatever it was at one point you lost, you felt that slipped away from you, but you were still working on, even though you said, like, look at these silly exercises. This is for somebody who's already up in age, and here I am, a young woman, having to
mm,
do this just so you can try to get the motion back in your arm, when it was gone and it was going limp. You weren't even able to raise your arm over your head, let alone wash yourself. But little by
mm.
little, you kept
Yeah.
exercising, working those muscles, and
Shout out to Bad Homburg, my rehabilitation center.
and then that's also a good thing about here in Germany,
Yeah.
that they actually approved you to go to a
Oh yeah.
rehab center
Oh
after
yeah.
this last surgery. I mean,
Hmm.
it took two surgeries,
Yeah.
and they said, "Okay, I think you need it now."
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't think it was a psychological thing.
Nee. Well, we don't
It
think so.
wasn't your imagination. You
Nee.
actually, yeah, you
Mm,
were right.
yeah.
But you were there for how many weeks?
That
Five
was
weeks.
5 weeks, and they even wanted to extend it because I had those neurological problems. As I could have stayed there longer, but we went to California. That was my other therapy.
Therapy.
Yeah, over there was really. I had my ups and I had my downs, and my downs were really because I got confronted from the doctors over there that I really am not allowed to go back to my work field. And I was like, come, maybe and they said, don't shoot there.
No, I wasn't gonna
Yeah,
let
I
you, if
know.
even if they would
I
have.
know.
I was telling you that
I
too. I
know.
said, I don't know if you're thinking about it. That's
That's
not
not,
even gonna be.
I know.
I'm gonna go, and I'll go and fire you, or tell the tell,
Yeah,
tell the tell, who's
yeah,
the
yeah.
chef here. You know what? My wife can't
Yeah,
work
but
here.
that was even then I was like maybe I find they said you're gonna find a way somewhere else, and then they came with all that government help and blah, and I said you know what I will find myself a job. And that's what I did while I was in the rehabilitation. I started applying and having the interviews lined up and all that. So
But see that's another thing where some people where they doubt
mm,
themselves. They feel like that there's a lot of things you feel you don't feel sure of stepping out and doing something different. You're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation and stepping out of your
yeah.
comfort zone. And for you, that was a something to work past, but you did eventually stay because you
Oh
still
yeah.
could have.
I could it take sick time longer or what? But for all the people maybe having now the question on mind, what is she doing now? I'm working in physical therapy, and I'm doing the appointments. That's about that. But I still have beautiful patients who come every day to visit. It's a very nice energy over there. And still, because they know I'm a nurse, they come with all these questions. What can I do? And so that's the
You're forever a
I'm
nurse.
forever a nurse, always will be.
And another thing that is something
Hmm.
that is rare, and there's people that when they hear it, they're like, oh my goodness, no. But you don't take any pain medication.
No, 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 no payments. That's not my cup of tea.
Just when they had you, when they had you on them, when you
Hmm.
were in the hospital, but you already were trying to
Hmm.
wean yourself off it, or they were actually trying to give you more than you thought was right for them to give you, right?
Yeah, I said you can dope me out with opiates pretty good after the surgery and through the night. Next day, just easy, easy. And then I just took ibuprofen and that's it.
But how were you able to do it without pain medication?
It's just because I know my body and I dealt with the pain all these years. So I have a different tolerance, and I see pain also a little different. It's of course an uncomfortable feeling, but it's also giving me signs of something isn't right or something is getting a little worse. I couldn't my doctor said I can put my hand in the fire when you sit here and you say something gotten worse or it feels different. I know it is so because you have a good body feeling, and this is why I don't suppress it with, or that's the reason, why I have it, because I'm not suppressing it with pain medication. I accepted it. It's my little alarm system I have. If I suppress it, how can I know what my body want to tell me? So yeah.
That's what is key right there. Most I don't even want to say most people,
Mm,
but I think it's important that we get back in touch and in tune with our own bodies, and not to say that there's no
mm,
place for it, but not to be relying on a gadget, not to be
mm,
relying on a pill to tell you, oh, your blood level's high now, or this
mm.
is. I mean, get back
Yeah.
in touch with get back in tune with
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Listen to your body. Your body is very
Yeah.
capable
So.
and willing to give you hints and to fire off points and let you know where something is
Oh
going
yeah.
wrong or where something isn't in tune or aligned the way it should be. And then I mean also it just comes with
Mm.
we have to start taking care of ourselves a bit more, and not be so dependent and relying on outside
Yeah, but
sources.
it's easy to take a pill and maybe 20 minutes later you're out of pain or feel somewhat
Mm-hmm.
of relief. That I was on those opiates, and I could feel like I'm starting liking that fuzzy feeling. They gave me. They didn't took the pain like I said before. They just made my brain a little fuzzy, heavy, so I could fall asleep, and that's why I do get how people like to take and numb their brains. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a bad feeling, not at all. I liked it, and I could see that my body wanted it. That I started shivering when I was not taking one in the evening, and that was like where I said, "Oh hell no!
Mm.
This is nothing I want, and that's why I always open communicate, because I know I had addiction to it. I was not, strung out or what, but I could feel my body was showing me,
Craving it.
Yeah. So I always had an open communication with my doctors. I said I don't want to be on opiates for a long time, just what I have to. If it's overnight after surgery or maybe a day, I don't take these pills home with me. And so that always worked out,
Mm-hmm.
and I stuck to that.
And you stuck to that.
Hmm.
That's a feat in itself because it seems like, especially when it comes to
Yeah.
people when they come off of surgeries and everything like that, you always hear of people that they had no kind of, if they didn't have an addiction before, after surgery, that's where they picked it up and found one.
Hmm. Yeah. If they put you on the meds, not telling you that how to handle it at home, then they take maybe one more, and then yeah. It's not that I'm not under pain. No? I mean, like you say, you see me. I stand up as
It's a
a
daily
just
thing.
so people can imagine. I stand up really like a old granny, so, till I have to walk myself in. so, so the pain is somewhat okay.
I think the mattress now, at
Yeah,
least the mattress
yeah.
is a little better.
Hmm.
That foam memory
Yeah.
mattress that helps, but yeah, it's still,
Yeah.
yeah. If people can
Mm.
picture someone struggling to get out of bed, but she pops out. You still get out of bed quicker than me when it comes to when the alarm goes off, because the alarm goes off and then I'm over here like, just, it seems like
Hmm.
you can just hop up, and even if you say it's slower than the
Yeah.
average bear, but you still pop up and it's time to
Yeah.
get ready to
Oh
go to
yeah.
work. There's not like, or also like
Hmm.
me, I'll
Gonna do it.
I'll set the, it goes off, and why do I set it
Mhm.
another 10 minutes later? Like 10 minutes is gonna matter. Me sleeping 10 minutes longer. And it's just messing with you because you're trying
Yeah.
to sleep, and
If I can.
you gotta hear the
Yeah.
alarm again.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll just put a song that you like, so at least you get to
Yeah.
hear a song
Uh-huh.
that you like when it's every time it goes on.
No, always on repeat, always from the beginning. That's boring too, though, because it will always start over and over again at the beginning.
Lord only knows the pain that you go through on a daily basis. Working, you still picked up things that you enjoy doing that has helped you. You still always have a creative outlet. You're doing hula hoop. You do the sun. You've learned how to do the sound bath, croquet, painting steins, stones. You even at one time with the whole the suction cups. A lot of things that are alternative ways for recovery, for wellness, to get your body right, get your mind right. And yeah, you always have something that you're involved with or
You have
doing.
to surround yourself. Yeah, you have to surround yourself with positivity and things you like, you can enjoy, you can dive into, distract maybe your mind
Let's not
from.
forget gardening.
Oh yeah, distract your mind from. Maybe if you're in pain, that's what helps me. If I dive into something beautiful, if it's like the sounds of sound bathing, if I can give you a sound bath, or if it's painting rocks and I'm just focusing on that, or gardening. Even it's harder for me now to do that, bending down and all that. But yeah, digging your hands in soil if you like it. I like it, and that's where I can be in tune with me, with Mother Nature, and I forget about everything what is happening around me, and also the pain, or or if I had a stressful day, just I just forget
Hmm.
about it.
Yeah, that, I think
Yeah.
that's a good takeaway point, is because despite all of that, the
Mm.
surgeries, the recovery process, and the pain that you're still dealing with, and you pretty much just accepted it. That's a part of life. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
But you still you still find ways to enjoy life and do what you can, even though like you're not able to do things like you once were. But
Oh
like
yeah.
from the hula hoop, I mean, you're doing when you first started out, you were struggling with it,
Hmm.
but now you're doing some crazy things with it. It's like uh, we're almost
Hmm.
ready to take this show on the road
Yeah.
and put up a put up a canopy or a tent. And
Come on, you're my biggest fan. I know that.
yeah, I think we're ready to take this show on the road.
The biggest and the only, my one and only fan. But what I also want to say is now that we even spoke about those surgery things and what I've been through the surgery wise, or still, I this would be not my topic to talk about because I feel like even I have this issue or that diagnosis and all that. I am more than that. I am me. I am Monique. I have this, but this is not making me.
Hmm.
I don't know how to explain it. I'm not saying, oh, I have this diagnosis. I have this. This is what I'm suffering from. I want to see that the people see me.
Yes.
Me, Monique, and without all that
Hmm.
nonsense. And of course, it's part of me. And if someone knows it or asks me, I don't answer those questions. But it's not that I would put that just out there. And that's
Yeah. No, no, I know what you mean. And the only reason I say that is because that's pretty much what the show is about. People that are sharing their experience, their journey, their path, and everything. Not even
yeah.
everything, but I mean the things that they've had to deal with along the road. And the point is like how you said, I'm more than that. Those did not define who you are. You still
Mm.
involve yourself with a lot of other things because you have a lot of creative energy, and so you do things just on the spur of a moment when you feel like creating or doing something, and for you that brings joy, and that's something that lights you up, and I'm always happy to see that.
I still feel my nursing heart beating if someone of my elderly say, "Oh, Monique, I have a wound here. What can I use?" And then I'm all in, and I'm like, "Okay, come on," and then I go into my little nurse talk and yeah.
To step out of that career and to go ahead and pursue something or to make an attempt to try something new, and there was a lot of doubt,
But I
but
still have a good contact, and I'm happy just that I found this job, and this is a big opportunity also for me, to go to work and go out there. Still have people contact. I have nice colleagues, and I appreciate that very much. That I had that chance. They easily could say like, "Oh my gosh, she has all that," and we don't know. Maybe she's sick a lot of time, or that they are more worried that I fall out or what. They gave me a chance. They sensed me the right way. They said we feel like you're such a positive and upbringing person. That's what they told me, and there were other people who applied for that position, but they chose me, and that made me so happy. Yeah, and I say that all the time. I said, I thank you for this opportunity. I'm very happy here. And yeah,
yeah, that is true. They
so
did give you a chance because you were honest with them and upfront in the beginning and told them your
yeah, hmm,
situation, and
yeah,
just so they're not in the
yeah.
dark when they hire you, and then something were to come up, God forbid. We're hoping that it's going to be a longer ride this time around.
Oh yeah, I hope that this is a good, that I have a good break for a longer time now. I really hope
Yeah.
so. Yeah, but if not, I'm ready for it. So
Hmm. That's the whole issue
all
with
this,
just enjoying the moment, trying to appreciate the present, not dread too much about what is down the line, but making the best of what we have right now, and then by trying to embrace it and enjoy it the best we can, that'll better prepare us for whatever lies ahead. But we don't have a crystal ball, and if I do
mhm.
somewhere around here, I know it doesn't work. So that's that's all good. That's all good.
Hmm. And I wanna say thank you to you also, because you are such an amazing person. You are such an amazing husband to me. You are my best friend, and without you, I don't know how I would make it through. But I can tell you, with you, it it made it easy. It was a smooth ride because I had you, your love, and all the support you gave me, and that made it so easy and also so worth it. I know I people say, oh, you have to do it for yourself. Of course, I did fight for myself, but hello, there are more people, I have on mind, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
this is you're my husband. I have my son on mind.
Yeah,
I'm fighting for him, and I always did,
that's
and
right.
for my parents. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh
But
yeah.
you was always there, and I want to say thank you. And you do an amazing job with the giants amongst us. I'm so freaking proud of you.
Mm. Oh,
how you do that. And
oh, what? Yeah, that means a whole lot. You also see from the first one, like how we're talking about doing, and it wasn't. It's
how you
not
was
even
running
like,
around like a chicken, so nervous.
yeah,
Yeah.
same thing. The doubt, the unsure. Like, oh, you know what? I think everybody's doing one.
But you do it unique.
If it means something to you, if it's something that moves you in a certain way, then why not go ahead and take a stab at it? Since we're on the wave of thanking, thank you for everything that you said. I know you mean it from the bottom of your heart, and you're, like I already said, the inspiration behind this. And aside from my mother, my biggest hero, and you're
Thank
the reason, I can say that. Not that you have a ruler or a stick over me and you're smacking me over the head every time I do something wrong, but because of you, I'm flying straight. You keep me in line when I need to be, and I think also that I've learned a lot through you, just by your patience and everything, and just how to be a better human being in general, from a lot of different things, and a lot of struggles that I've had, and that I've dealt with. You've helped me along the way, and I think, had it not been for you, I don't know. I might have fell back on the wayside again. But yeah, you've been the positive influence in my life, the positive bright light that is in my corner, and all the more reason to keep straight, and to build something that'll be worthwhile for both of us.
You are amazing. And I find that your podcast, because you said, when you doubt, hey, everybody has a podcast. You do it unique. To me, this is still with the music. You always sit there and people listen, really. He sits there after every interview and he's paraphrasing it. He's thinking about every talk and he's scribbling down for every interview the words he wanna reminisce and say to them. So who's doing that? Really, as you put so much love and effort to every conversation, and how you go over that it sounds nice, that the music is right, that everything is, to me, with so much love. And that's what I love about your podcast, and that you listen to these people, give them a chance to be heard, or that they can speak out what they want to speak out, and nothing feels like it's forced. It's always smooth sailing with you. You're cool, chat partner. You just do a great job. So keep it up.
Yeah. And the crowd goes
Woo!
wild. Ah.
Enough.
We let it run. We could keep this thing running. We can take it
Mhm.
3. We could take it till 4 in the morning. How much time do you have, ladies and
Mhm.
gentlemen?
Oh my God. We better
No,
we better end it.
that was
Mhm.
beautiful that we had this chat.
Mhm.
We're in the same house, but
Mhm.
we're not in the same room. We're still having this conversation. You took time, like I said, out of your
Mhm.
day to share some of your life experiences and your twists, turns, jumps, and everything
Mhm.
that molded and shaped you into who you are right now. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, as a matter of fact. But some of the fights, some of the struggles and the battles that you had, and how you were able to come out on the other side still with your sanity, because you still kept your sanity. So that was a beautiful take. That was a beautiful conversation. And if there's anything else before we wrap it up, my dear.
I would just say life is beautiful, no matter what. You can always see something. There will always be something positive, even on very, very cloudy and maybe very, very dark days. And those moments and those positive things, those are the things who carry you and let you move on and forward.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Till next time,
Peace. And
and
very
very
soon,
soon, peace.
peace. Do up, do up, do up.
Still laughing, still joyful. Her smile was still enough to break the clouds and bring out the sun in a dark, cloudy, gloomy day. But how to when life can seem fair, difficult, and doing nothing but beat you up all day long, day in and day out? I mean, what's the bother? For her, having meaningful relationships, her son, her parents, doing things that she enjoys, surrounding herself with things that bring joy to her life, things that light her up in the inside. Croquet, painting stones, hula hooping, whatever it is where she's able to express herself freely and not to have that energy bottled up. That's the way Mo flows. And from a very early age, she knew what she wanted to be, and that was a nurse. Now, she might not be working in an ICU unit, but she's still that angel and beacon of light. She still has that heart to give. There was a mention of a friend of hers who recently passed away, Getz. And this man was bedridden for more than a year. The family had a physical therapist going to the house, but he might as well not even have been there. He was doing next to nothing, if that. Monique comes along, and she'd help with trying to get back in the swing of things. She'd introduce different movements, motions, exercises so that he could kind of recover some of the muscle loss that happened since he's been bedridden and since the accident that happened in the hospital, to where he ended up losing one of his legs. Not even 1 month into her visiting, she was able to help himself get out of bed, sit himself on his wheelchair so that they could roll him out into his garden and he could get some fresh air on his face again after being in a room or on a bed for over a year. Within a month, she was able to help him do that. How good it must have felt for him to be able to go out in his garden again. And it didn't just stop in his garden, because there was also pictures and times that she would share with me where they took him around the neighborhood. The son's pushing him in the wheelchair and they're rolling him around, and he's able to get outside around the neighborhood and enjoy that. Listen to the birds chirp, get out in the open, fresh air, and to be able to experience that again instead of being stuck in a room or confined to four corners and four walls. The smile he had on his face when she shared those pictures with me. And I was able to, she brought me over to the house one time and I was able to meet them. They a sweet family. We had coffee, we had cake together, and how thankful the family was for her, but also how much Monique enjoyed being a part of that family's life. And to this day, even right now, she still keeps in contact with the wife and the son. That's just one example. I could go on for days, but this is just who she is. So regardless of her working in the medical field in that sense, there's still relationships and there's still things that she does outside of that because that's what she enjoys doing. She's a giver with a big heart. And even after the surgeries and having to go through that, how draining it was physically, emotionally, from the back to the neck, and then being so close together in time. The work towards healing, getting better, getting well, making the effort, doing the exercises, the motions, taking those baby steps again so she's able to enjoy life like she once did. There was a lot of pain, there was a lot of doubt, there was a lot of, her getting down on herself and depression and the self-esteem, everything just taking a hit, but she kept at it. And like she said, she's not some condition, she's not a diagnosis, she's not a disability, she's more than that. That's a fact. But I can say what she is, without a doubt, is a giant amongst us. My dear, meine Liebling, I want to thank you for sharing your story, for walking us down some of your life's experience, your journey, and taking us through how you navigated through your struggles, your trials, your tribulations, your ups and your downs, and how you managed to come out still enjoying life, still hopeful of life, and still taking things in a positive direction. Life isn't fair. Some people are handed everything, and others, they have to work for all that they have. Rather than complain and cry, woe is me, Monique, she kept putting one foot in front of the other so that she can create a life that she'd be happy with. Keep being you and keep letting that soul of yours shine through. I hope this episode finds you all in good spirits. Again, like always, thank you all for tuning in. You can check out the website. It's as easy as putting in giantsamongustus.com. There you're able to leave a voice message if you like, and let me know where you're listening from, what episodes you enjoyed, what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. You can also leave a voice message and let me know where you're listening from, or share your thoughts on the show or any of the stories that you've heard in the past. And, of course, if you find value in the show, if you appreciate the stories, the words that have been shared, and what's been going on so far with it, you can always leave a rating, you can leave a review, you can do all that on whichever platform it is you're listening to. That can help with putting this inside of the ears of more listeners as we continue to move on with this. So thank you all. And before I wrap this thing up, if you would like to be a part of the show and share your story, or even the story of someone in your life that has impacted you in a positive way, you can always reach out to me via email. I'd be happy to connect. Until next time, and very soon, peace.
I'm looking for a sign to know I'm on the right road. Ain't seen no sign,